Welcome to the Westport Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carol Erger-Fass, and I want to welcome you to tonight's program, Building Bridges Through Storytelling. It's the first of several exciting events celebrating our multi-gallery quilting exhibit that's now on display. Tonight, Miggs Burrows will be talking with members of the Southern Connecticut Modern Quilt Guild, whose work is in the Sheffer Gallery. The Guild offers their community of over 40 artists a space to meet, share, learn, and create. Learning and community is a large part of the Guild. They host classes, retreats, and sew together, making quilts for local charities. The show features quilts made by individuals as well as by the collective. A few years ago, members of the Guild were introduced to author, educator, and descendant of Geesben, Alabama quilters, Tangela Irby, and they invited her to one of their meetings, and they learned about the history of Geesben, Alabama quilters, and how many families left Geesben and moved north to Bridgeport, where the quilting tradition has continued and still thrives today. When I reached out to Terry Langer from the Guild to do this show, she had suggested doing a collaboration with their Bridgeport friends. And what resulted is the companion exhibit, A Traveling Legacy, From Geesben to the Nutmeg State, and that's in the South Gallery. In addition, working together, they created the beautiful quilt that's hanging right over there, entitled Building Bridges Through Storytelling. This quilt is literally a symbol of cross-community engagement, as it includes contributions from Geesben, Alabama quilters, Geesben Friends in Bridgeport, and members of the Southern Connecticut Modern Quilt Guild. And I'm thrilled to announce that tonight, this amazing quilt is being gifted to the library's permanent collection, so it can be shared with our community in the library and hopefully in the schools for years to come. Before I turn this over for the presentation, I just wanted to mention that we have a second reception and a panel discussion with Tangela and the Bridgeport Geesben Friends on Saturday, July 31st, and that will also be accompanied by a quilt sale. And then there are 2 Verso University classes on quilting and preserving family stories later this month and in February, and you can find all the info and register for those on our website. So thanks, and I'll turn this over to Terry Langer and for the quilt presentation.
The Southern Connecticut Modern Quilt Guild wants to thank everyone at the Westport Library for being so welcoming and wonderful to work with on this quilting collaboration. Carol and I met, as she said, over a year and a half ago, and we talked about a quilt show. And we discussed all different kinds of things and different kinds of quilt shows. And I mentioned to her that I had a friend, Tangela Irby, who was a descendant of the Geesben quilters. I reached out to Tangela, and we decided a collaboration between the Southern Connecticut Modern Quilt Guild and the Geesben quilters of Bridgeport and Alabama would be a wonderful creative project. We all worked on this fabulous quilt that's over here together. They made blocks in Alabama, they made blocks in Bridgeport, and we made blocks in Fairfield County. Tonight we would like to present the quilt to the library, to Bill Harmer, the executive director, and it will be added to the Westport Library art collection. Everyone in the Guild would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our creativity and continue to build bridges through storytelling with quilts. So, thank you. So we're so glad you can have the quilt.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Wonderful turnout tonight. I always marvel at just how incredible the artistry is of the exhibits that we do here. And I just want to say how grateful we are for the efforts that everyone made in putting into this and creating this contribution and this work of art. And we're very excited to have it in our permanent collection. We just need to figure out where the best place is to put it yet. But we'll look forward to doing that. We're glad that we're going to be not only tonight's celebration, but the quilt sale that'll be coming up in January, and then having yet another program later this summer to celebrate this kind of artwork. So thank you all for coming out tonight and supporting us, and we look forward to the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm sitting here. You can sit anywhere else. Well, many thanks to Carol and Bill Harmer and the library for nurturing the arts this way. I mean, this is an amazing facility here, and music, art, culture, this all happens here, and so this is extraordinary. And you guys, welcome. So it's Nelson, Michelle, and Terry, right? Do you want to, just so everyone hears the word G's Bend, what is G's Bend and how did it evolve? Do you want to give a brief capsule history?
Sure, this probably isn't, I'm not the best person, but Tangela, I'll do my best. G's Bends are quilters in Alabama, and they've been there for a very, very long time. And they quilted. They quilted out of scraps. They quilted out of whatever they could and make marvelous quilts. At a point, a lot of the people from G's Bends moved up to Bridgeport, I think in the 1970s. And they came up here because we had a lot of factories and they could find work. And then they would send their children also back in the summer sometimes to stay with the grandmas and the aunts, because everyone's working and they need people to take care of their children. And so there was quite a connection between the G's Bends people in Bridgeport as well as in Alabama. And they continued to quilt, and they're still quilting today. And the people in G's Bends, a lot of times people took advantage of them and would sell their quilts and do things that they didn't really get the money for. So that's why we wanted to really make sure that we worked with the G's Bends people. And so Tangela was my connection with that. We became friends through a talk I met her at in Bridgeport, and she's come and talked to our guild. And so I thought this would be a great collaboration to work with her and her group. And so we made fabric packets, and so what we did is everyone in our guild, the people in Bridgeport and the people in Alabama, got fabric. And then they were told to please add some of their own fabric to it, and we didn't give any directions. We said, make whatever you want. And so the gals in Alabama and the gals in Bridgeport made the center blocks of that quilt. And then our guild, the Southern Connecticut Modern Quilt Guild, we made all the surrounding blocks. And then we also, Tate in our guild made the cornerstones. And we had Wendy quilted it, and Tate finished it up and bound it, and we ended up with a quilt.
So who are we, this picture behind us, is that the guild?
That was back in the day. That was like, those are the OG people. And some of them are still here today.
Yep, but that was our original group.
Oh my God, Kathy.
So, I mean, from what I've read, I did a little research, and the word quilt, actually, the origin goes back to Latin. In the Middle Ages, salette or something, but it means mattress in Latin. So originally quilts, Nelson, do you want to address, do you know anything about do you want to talk about the origin of the actual, the art form?
I mean, but I can comment on how process of Middle Ages of making a mattress will lead to, the word meaning the modern form of a quilt. And so in the Middle Ages, a mattress was straw, raw wool, any matter that any people could get their hands on. And then it would be literally quilted through to hold everything together, and then that is what you slept on. And so today we do the same process with 3 layers, your top fabric, your bottom fabric, and your middle filling, and that can be many things, and you quilt it together to form one whole item.
And again, just to get the basics, Michelle, what is the anatomy of a quilt? I heard you call them blocks. Can you give us a little primer on what the different parts of a quilt are and what they're?
Well, you start by making blocks, so that can be, there's a lot of blocks that have been around forever that are, you can see some of them over there, like the bear claw block, or the ones that the G-bend people use, or, sometimes what's called court steps, or the
Courthouse.
or what's the one that you just go around?
cabin.
Log cabin, and you just, so you start off sewing, you take big pieces of fabric and cut them up to make smaller blocks, and then you sew those blocks together, and then there's 3 layers, like Nelson said, so you have the top, the, middle layer, like usually cotton, you can use wool as well, it's called batting, and then you normally, the bottom, and then you quilt those together. So some people hand quilt them, and nowadays in modern times people have what's called a long arm quilt, so it's imagine like a giant sewing machine on a stand, and could be, so you can put like a king size quilt on it, and you just can freehand draw basically on it.
So what is it? Okay, is this one of your groups starting out? So
This is in the beginning days.
So how does a quilt, what is the birth of a quilt? Do you talk about, we're going to do this, you're going to do that, I'll do this one, I'll do that one? Everyone just does their own thing and brings it together, and you sew them up?
Well, there's all different ways. You could just buy a pattern and do it, like buy a kit of something. Like this one right here, and we have a programming group in our guild, and the programming sets up different things and challenges. And so this was a challenge because I was in programming at this time, and we found a quilt block we wanted to make, and so we brought fabric, we showed the guild how to make it, and then everyone makes it, and then they bring them back the next meeting, the next month, and then we sew them all together, and we usually give them as charity quilts, because we do a lot for charity. And so that's one way, or some people just sit down and just sew pieces of fabric together. But like that one was it's a definite pattern. You can see they're all the same, but they look different by the fabric. And so each member would bring one in, and then we sew them all together.
And the fabric, could it come like from your grandmother's dress or my shirt, or where do you get quilt? If your mom a beginner quilter, where would I go for quilt?
Well, most of us go to a quilt shop, and because there's different weights, so you would buy quilting weight. But sure, a friend of mine who's here tonight just made a quilt out of her husband's old ties. People, that's actually G's Bend. That's what they did. They didn't have any way to go buy quilting fabric, so they would just use their old clothes, or back in the old days, in like the 30s, there was flour sacks that people would buy their flour in, and they were actually printed. That's probably what this is, by the way.
Yep.
All these this is a quilt, I just made this, but it was an old quilt somebody gave us, but I'm pretty sure that all these pieces were probably from like these flour sacks, and the companies would print them purposely because they knew afterwards people would cut them up and make either clothing or quilts out of them.
Okay, so I have to I don't want to embarrass her, but I have to thank Totney Benson for this question. So what do quilting and UFOs have to do with one another?
I would have to say I'm the expert of UFOs.
How so?
I seldom complete a quilt.
Have you been abducted by a UFO, or what?
That could explain it. But unfortunately, the truth is much sadder. But UFO is an unfinished object in our world. So it can be pieces of fabric that were cut for a quilt. It could be blocks that were started but never put together. It could be a quilt top that is whole but has not been quilted, or even worse, a quilt that has not been bound with fabric to hold all the layers together. So there's many degrees of UFOs, but we're all,
We all have them.
capable.
And where do they end up? Are they just in a pile somewhere that you'll get to someday?
Yeah.
In every
Many
closet,
piles.
under your bed.
Also, what we do is
bags.
what we do at the Guild is we have this open table, the swap table, and people have brought whole complete tops and left them there. Someone else took them, added a little material, quilted it, we gave it to charity. So that happens a lot. You know, that with the Guild, we have that ability to bring it and let someone else take over.
Now this one behind us, this doesn't look, I can't see squares or blocks. Is it a one piece? I mean,
It's
explain.
It's a double wedding ring quilt.
And it's like- it would be
that's
like
what this is. It's a double
And
wedding.
Nelson made that.
It's curves, so you can sew curves.
It's not done in sections, is it? Is there
There it
sections
is.
to
There's
this?
blocks. You just can't see.
can't see them,
You can't
okay.
see it.
So like, this is what like, I call it like serpentine seams. So the seams are not straight. They're all curving and they're all kind of winding like a snake. And the like lines of blocks are actually horizontal, not on the diagonal. So the seams are following those curved edges on the diagonal all the way across. And this quilt, learning how to piece this quilt is what finally unlocked the sewing method to piece the quilt that I have in the gallery. I designed it without knowing how to assemble it, but by learning a very old technique, I was able to translate it to a very modern.
Would this be considered a more challenging, like in the levels of quilting? That's, yeah. But what would a basic, again, a beginner want to start out, what would you recommend? First of all, joining a guild, or can people
I think
join the guild?
People can join the Guild. There's been people that have joined that don't really have much experience. Usually people have some experience and they just want to learn more. It's a great place to come and learn because we teach each other things, as well as we have instructors come and teach us. And I mean, I've learned so much from the Guild. It's amazing because, you know, we're all just sharing our ideas and collaborating.
Still new after, because apparently G's band at least started in Africa, right, with slaves. They came here they quilted, and they came over on the Clotilda, I think, was the last slave ship.
I'm sure that's where,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's been going on forever. I will say we're a modern quilt guild. And so if you look at our quilts in the gallery, you might, on some of the quilts, you might see something that looks like an old-fashioned block, but we've modernized it. Like we do have a pickle dish, it's back in the right-hand corner. And the pickle dish is a very famous quilt block, but we modernized it by using different kinds of colors, and we just kind of move things a little or invert something and make it more modern. And a lot of times we do things as modern quilts that are more solids, and not as many flowers.
Well, look at this is pretty modern.
Yes,
right?
that was one of,
That was based on the bridges of the Merritt Parkway. Everyone had to
wow.
go to the Merritt Parkway and look at a bridge.
Find your
and then
bridge.
find a bridge and make a block, just, you know.
Do you have a,
your interpretation of it.
Yeah, this was this was a long time ago, and then we donated it to the Merritt Parkway Conservancy.
oh, that's really wild. I mean, that's, you know, obviously you could hang in the Museum of Modern Art. I mean, it's just such a, or maybe it does. But that's, again, that's not blocks. It's not geometric. I mean, there's geometry, but there's not, everyone isn't a 10-inch block or something. It's.
I believe they are. I believe.
No, I don't think so.
No, that one might not be. But
So you teach,
I guess not.
so there's, I mean, that looks challenging, but a beginner could start with a
Yes,
simple.
very
form.
simple.
Yeah.
Like a person that was a new quilter could have made one of the blocks and made it
Oh.
very simple, or someone like Nelson could make one very complicated. And then when they're all together, like you just see the whole picture, the big picture.
And do you, I mean, they're decorative, obviously, in art, but do you make quilts where you know, they're on your bed and you use them to keep warm?
So like my
Yeah.
quilts are mostly for the bed, and I have grandchildren, and they are forts, and they go in the grass, they go to the beach. They're very, very used. Some people make smaller things and hang them on their walls. So I think we have a little bit of everything. A lot of people hang a big quilt, like it would be like that in their home, hanging on the wall.
And Nelson, like, what's your proudest quilt to date, do you think?
Any quilt I complete, but the double wedding ring is especially a proud moment. That was for my best friend. I still haven't delivered it, but you see a theme here. But any quilt with intent or purpose is always a cherished quilt. And a quilt that is used, abused even, is much better than a quilt forgotten or left in a closet or such.
So the best source of the material is there's just quilting shops, but you can go in the closet and just find old clothes, right?
Yep. Well, all of us, we can go and find a lot of
Oh my
in the
God.
closet. But some people, like we have a gal in our guild, and she just made a quilt for her grandson, and she used shirts from her ex-husband, from the child's grandfather, the child's father, and just like dress shirts, and she cut them up and used them for her daughter's prom dress. I think her daughter's curtains when she was growing up. So they were all recycled fabrics, and it's a beautiful quilt, and then she made it for her grandson. And she even used like the labels in the shirts on the back of the quilt. So like a lot of people do like a lot of, some people use like sheets for the back of a quilt, like maybe an old sheet there in the closet.
Oh yeah, so that's another, so there's, both sides aren't equal necessarily, right? There's one is the showy side, and the other is, so what do you do on the reverse?
Doesn't have to
It
be.
doesn't have to be.
No?
Like,
I like
yeah.
a pieced back. Sometimes I'll take the extras that are left over from the front and just make, something a little interesting. Maybe not as complicated.
Right,
on the back.
not usually as complicated, but the G's Ben's quilt has lots of, like the blocks that are around the edges on the back, because we had extra ones, and so we just incorporated them.
So what happens I was reading some of the things you do, what is a quilting retreat? What goes on at a quilting retreat?
Nelson, do you want to talk about the retreats?
So quilting retreats, we gather together, we share food, we share drink, we lament over wrong seams or, broken threads, but we're really there to make and to share a space together. And I think the beauty of like a retreat is we get to know each other better on a much deeper level than in our monthly meetings. And I think it's always interesting to see our peers actually working at their machine. We don't usually see that in the day-to-day. And so sometimes people are stuck. Sometimes we help each other. Sometimes, sometimes we're held back from making mistakes. I wish that happened to me a few times. But I think it's just a great way to get together and bond and to learn and to grow.
And where do these happen usually? Do you go out to?
We've gone to the...
Oh, we have two. We've had one we've gone to for a long time, and it's a stay-at-home retreat, and so we meet on Saturday and Sunday, but we go home, and we have it locally. We've had them at art places, we've had them at a hotel, we've had them at someone's home, and then we've been doing that for quite a long time. And then last year, we started doing a sleepaway retreat, and it's an incarnation center in Deep River, Connecticut. And there we stayed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we stayed overnight. And it was quite rustic, but it was really fun. And I think both retreats are just a wonderful time, I think more than anything, to get closer, that kinship, that friendship of making quilts together.
So when you're doing an overnight retreat, do you have to sleep with a quilt?
Well,
Is that a requirement?
Well, we all brought one and put it at the end of our beds.
Oh, okay.
But it was really, it's just fun to get to and we work on some things, our individual things, sometimes a charity quilt, a group quilt. So.
What is block of the month? Oh, go ahead.
No. And no spouses are allowed.
No. Another activity I see here, a block of the month. What is that? Is that something you vote on, or what is that? Do you know what block of the month is?
So block of the month, usually our programming committee comes up with a block, and it could be something very simple, it could be something more advanced, or it could be based on a technique, not necessarily a specific pattern. And so there's been some that have been outside designers that we've used their patterns. Sometimes we've had group members that we ask, can you design the block for this month? And so this past year, that's what we did. Every month, an individual member presented a block pattern as the block of the month, and people could participate or shock and horror or have a lot of fun or learn something new.
So is it right to assume you use sewing machines? I mean, they had to be done by hand in the early days, but when did sewing machines take over? And what sewing machine, is there a sewing machine of choice among quilters?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, there's so many.
There's so many.
There's a lot of different
they-
ones. There's a whole store up in Orange that's like all sewing machines. I mean, there used to be more, but.
Can any sewing machine work on a quilt? Because it is thick. I mean, you're running it through, I don't know anything about sewing machines.
To actually quilt it, you need a heavy duty machine, or you would send it out to someone who has a long arm. But any machine, because you just need a straight stitch to do make quilt blocks. You don't need, like for dressmaking, you need more stitches.
Mostly you need to sew straight lines, unless you're doing curves. But for the most part, most people are just sewing straight lines. What do we have up there?
Oh, that was we went to have you ever heard of Cave Fassett? He's pretty, he's a artist in quilting and knitting, he's British, and he came and we drove out to Pennsylvania and took a class with him. He's mostly a very color theory kind of guy.
No, is this something in progress, or is that one block, or is that a whole quilt? It looks kind of small.
That's one block.
Yeah.
And it's probably is it 12 by 12? 12 by 12. So
Okay.
it looks very big up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But, that's,
detailed.
And it's very detailed. And that's for a more advanced quilter.
Okay, this is...
And this was a quilt that was when Michelle Lieberson was our founder and of the Quilt Guild, and she just wanted to find some like-minded people and do some modern quilting. And so she started the guild, and for about 4 years, were you president?
Yeah, I think about 4 years.
And so after the end of her presidency, the members made that quilt for her. So, and she likes to make bags.
I used to make a lot of handbags, sew a lot of handbags, so they made me.
So we made that. So that's like more from the beginning. Like, we're in our 11th year, so that's probably about the 4th year of our guild that we made. But everyone worked on it.
Is this more bags? Is this...
Oh, I'm not sure whose that is, but I
know
just
what
thought
that
it was like a fun
Yeah.
quilt to show like what people do in the guild.
And what's a round robin activity? Is that, I mean, I know sort of what
Okay,
round
a
robin
round
is.
robin usually lasts about 12 months. And you start out and like you could have say 10 people in the round robin. Not everyone does it. We give choices. You can be as active or inactive as you choose. So what you would do is you would make one block, a typical round robin, and then you would put fabric in that goes with that block. And you don't see your box for a year. And so like I would take Michelle's and Michelle would take Nelson's and so on. And each month we switch it. And when it comes back to at the end of the month, we have a reveal. At the end of the year, we have a reveal. And you have a whole quilt that your guild friends worked on. And then it's your, then you go get it quilted and finish it and bind it. And then everyone comes back and shows the quilts again. It's really fun to have, I've done it 3 times. And I think it's just really fun to have that quilt that all your friends worked on. And so when you look at it, you can go, oh, Michelle made that, or oh, Nelson made that.
Yeah, so I asked Michelle, what's your proudest quilt to date, or?
I mean, I had a couple of quilts in QuiltCon, so we're members of the Modern Quilt Guild, which is international, actually, and they have a convention every year, and there was I had a quilt in the show that I had to, get jewelried in, and so I have it hanging in my house, so I think that was, my proudest one.
And they just travel around from exhibits. I mean, they could be in your home, but then something comes up, you loan them out to exhibits.
Some
like
people
this?
do, and
Yeah.
You can enter them in a
Enter
quilt.
them.
There's a lot of quilt shows around, actually. There's other guilds in the area, like the Northern Star Guild, and they have shows, and you can submit your quilt, and then if they accept it, and you can put it in the show.
And another thing you do here, sew and share. I mean, it kind of seems obvious, but what is sew and share?
I don't know, it's one of my favorite parts of the meeting. It's the end of the meetings. We meet once a month. We meet the second Saturday of every month. And people bring in whatever they're working on or what they finished. And it's just fun. Like, I get a lot of, like, it makes me feel inspired to see these beautiful quilts that people are working on. And then if you see someone that's doing something that maybe you've been wanting to learn, but you haven't done it yet, you can talk to them, and everyone's willing to help each other and teach each other. And I think that's one of the greatest things about the Guild. And so, show and share is just bring in your stuff and everyone taking a look. So kind of like what you're doing is showing the quilts. You know, everyone just shows what they're working on.
Do you have to have an artistic background? I mean, there's people here, you know, I mean, all these things look so enjoyable and social and the whole community aspect of it, but do you need to have an art background to just start quilting?
No, absolutely not. I think quilting is a great way to explore your artistic side and learn what you like and what you like making and discover new parts of yourself and express yourself in a new way that's pretty accessible. All you need is a sewing machine and access to fabric, and it doesn't have to be new fabric. All fabric is fair game, in my book.
You ever dream of quilts, wake up and go, oh, God? Or the question should be, can you stop dreaming of quilts? Have you ever dreamt of a quilt and then?
I never dream of a quilt, but I'll definitely daydream about a quilt. I work in the quilting industry, and so sometimes I see fabric that really inspires me that one of our designers is producing, and I daydream about what I would make with that fabric, and it usually ends there, but sometimes it gets actually made, and it's really fulfilling.
Do you sketch them out first? Is there any preliminary, you know?
There's actually a program that you can use to help design quilts, but a lot of people use Procreate. You know, I don't know if you use that. It's like an app on your iPad, Illustrator, yeah, you can.
I'm old-fashioned. I use gridded paper.
You do it on paper? You draw something
Paper
out?
and pencil, yeah.
And then you look for the fabric, or you have the fabric first, and you go, you know, the polka dots are going to go here, and the plaid's going to
It
go
just
there.
depends. It really just depends. Usually, like, you kind of like know what color you want. Lately, I've really been trying to use all my stash because I have so much. And so that's really what I've been going through and shopping my own fabric and then just buying little bits and pieces that go. But like, I love polka dots, so I have a lot of polka dots in my quilts because I think they're nice on the eye.
But this one's all triangles. Is anybody,
Oh,
there are
that-
people that, quilters that are sort of known for the, you know, bags, triangles, polka dots. Is that your identity?
So that one was one that we did in the beginning of the Guild, and we taught everyone how to make that block. Everyone went home and made it, and then we put it together and used it for a charity quilt.
I mean, is this considered traditional? It just has a...
This is much more traditional, but like it's beautiful colors, and they're all different. But I think they're very traditional blocks.
Oh, this one is wild. That's a butterfly, I assume, or Rorschach or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how many little tiny...
So one person made that.
One person, okay.
So I think she was like maybe our second president. Cheryl Kirk made that. She lives in Rhode Island now. And she has a quilting business, and she quilts a lot. And she's a very good seamstress, and that was just one of hers.
I'm sure that was from a pattern.
That was a pattern. I think it's a tulip pink pattern, I think.
And I'm sure there's no typical time, but what's the range of completing a quilt from...
Well, some can take 5-10 years. So like, it really just depends. Some you start, you make all the blocks, you end up cutting the blocks and redoing them. I mean, I think we've all done that.
I mean, the one I have from the picture, I think it's still sitting in my house, all those little squares that I cut out.
And in the inverse, like at my company, we'll hire quilters, and so they can produce a quilt in 2-3 weeks. And it's just really, is it your job? Is it your pastime? It really depends on a lot of factors.
It depends on the timing. Like
Yeah.
sometimes like you put it off, and like, you need to make a baby quilt for someone in the family. Well, the baby's born, and so like you just sit down for 2 days and it's finished, But, that's a smaller quilt. But I think we all are all ranges of times. And
So would you have a meeting, if you're all making a quilt, I mean, are there 12 sewing machines going at once?
sometimes,
Really?
sometimes we'll just have everyone bring their machine and work on them. Some of the, like the pink and purple quilt out in the gallery, Naomi, a member, designed it, and she got all the fabric, and she cut it in little bags. So we all met at our meeting, and so some people were sewing, some people were ironing, some people were just opening up the bags and laying out the pieces in the correct order. And so we're just kind of like little ants running around. Everyone had their job, and then we got all the blocks done, and then I believe Naomi and Brenda put the blocks together. So like it's a group thing, and some people do more, some people do less. One person kind of has to quilt it, and one person binds it. That's the edging around the quilt. But we all just share, and everyone volunteers, and it's just what we enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an obvious metaphor of the community of blocks coming together to form something bigger and greater. And is this a quilting fabric store shelf?
So this is Christie's quilt store in Norwalk, Connecticut. And is that the Denise Schmidt?
Yeah, those are all those. So one of our local quilting celebrities works out of the Fabric Arts building in Bridgeport. They have a lot of artists rent space there. So she was one of the first modern quilters. I invited her tonight, but she had to travel for work. But she did a challenge with us when we first started. She gave us a bunch of fabric, and we all made quilts. So I believe that up on the top are all the quilts that we made for the challenge. And then we met at Christie's Quilting Boutique in Norwalk to have a little party with her.
And the one time it wasn't Denise, was it?
We did something with Kate Spain also.
Kate Spain gave us, she's another local celebrity, and she gave us a bunch of fabric, and we all made small quilts, 18 inch by 18 inches. We finished them, so they were bound, they were quilted, and it was her new line of fabric, and so when they were trying to sell her fabric, those quilts went to different quilt shops, and they were gone for about a year, and then after they were doing all the displays at different fabrics, people in the fabric stores like to show something made already. And so that was a pretty fun, thing that we did, a challenge. Oh,
that's Kate.
That's Kate.
Yeah, that's Kate Spain.
Now, is she smiling because she just...
And she's holding all the quilts that we made. They were just small little quilts. And then they went out with her fabric, trying to sell her fabric.
Oh, I see. Okay. That's wild. Is this during a meeting? No,
This is at Christie's. That's the same time as looking. Those are the different quilts. We made.
Oh, we've seen this one before. Do you want to talk a little bit about the building bridge, the quilt you donated to the library, the genesis of that quilt?
Of this one over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I knew what the G's Ben's style was. I've always read about them, and I found it really remarkable, and all their quilts. And so a few of us went shopping, and we tried to find fabric that we thought would all go together. And so we bought fabric and cut it up into strips and pieces, and then we bagged them up and we sent them to Alabama, sent them to Bridgeport, and sent them to our members. And we said, please add your own fabric to it as well. But by giving some fabric, it kept everything together in the same color scheme. And we just thought it would be fun to do something together.
Yeah, it's amazing. What I like about it, I mean, I like a lot about it, but you can do in quilts what you can't do with clothes, like polka dots and plaid. I mean,
You can do it all.
You get away with that, and it enhances, but, you walk down the street wearing that.
People would laugh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Be a human quilt. Is there a quilting, it's a weird, signature cocktail for quilters?
I don't know, I'm sure we could come up with one.
I'm sure we each have our own. One thing I would like to talk about is we do a lot with charity.
Oh, sure.
And so we are a 501c3, our guild. And we've been giving to charity our whole time we've been together. We've given quilts to Susie's House here in Westport. We've given them to Homes for Hope in Westport. We used to give little small quilts to a NICU unit in Springfield, Massachusetts. And it's just nice when the moms and dads walk in and they're going through the most horrific time of their life. And there's something pleasant to look at. We've sent quilts to the victims of the fires in Altadena in California last year. We're currently giving quilts to Columbus House in New Haven. And we also make really fun, bright pillowcases. And those go to the Connecticut Children's Hospital and the Elizabeth Seton Children's Hospital in Yonkers, New York. And I think that's a really important thing to most of us in the Quilt Guild, that someone that doesn't have a blanket or doesn't have anything goes away with a quilt and gets to have a quilt to start their new life with.
Yeah, the thing most of us take for granted. You get in
Right.
bed and you pull up a blanket, but it's wonderful.
And so I think we really have enjoyed that a lot, making them together. And we all work on it. Some might make a top, someone might quilt it. Everyone does something, and sometimes you can do a lot and sometimes you can't, depending on what's going on in your life. But everyone in the guild is just amazing, and we've made so many quilts. And it's just such an important part of our guild.
This will be the last question, then we'll take questions. Is there you don't have to identify, but the youngest quilter and the oldest quilter, by age, not by name? What?
Apparently, I'm the youngest.
I mean, do you have any children? What?
I'm not sure if it's you or what.
Apparently, I'm the youngest.
Okay, you're the youngest.
You don't have children, like teenagers don't want to quilt, or you haven't found any young quilters?
Just cats.
Super young?
So we have a wide range in our group, of ages. We have a lot of fun.
All right, well, if we can take questions. Oh, way back there, yeah. Anne? Can you go, I hate to do, but they need, because they're recording this, if you could walk over to the
I
microphone.
just went over there. I just wanted to reiterate, we have 2 classes that are going along with the quilt show. So the first one is called Color and Stitch. It's Foundations for Quilters and Sewing Enthusiasts. And it's being taught by Brenda, and she's in our guild. And it's on Friday. It's 2 classes. It's January 23rd and 30th from 10:30 to 12. And then the other class is by Tangela Irby, and it's Preserving Family Stories. And it's a 2-part workshop here at the library. And it's February 3rd and 10th from 6:30 to 8. And so you can sign up for those classes on the library website. And they should both be very interesting.
Yeah, and there's another event here, when is it, the 31st? Or there's a
Saturday, January 31st, and it's from 1 to 5. And that will be, the G's Ben's people will be here talking about how we're talking up here.
Anne?
Okay, years ago, when I was a quilter, it was sort of a thought that when you made a quilt, at some part of the quilt you had to leave a mistake because only God could be perfect. So every quilt had to have a mistake in it somewhere. And I just wondered if that thought is still running through what you're quilting. These all look like perfect quilts. I don't see any mistakes anywhere. You'd always put something askew or the wrong color together or something. Have you ever heard that?
Oh, yeah. They have that, we say that in knitting as well. But
Okay,
I'm
so-
sure there's a mistake.
There's mistakes.
There's
I
always a
don't know.
mistake.
There's
But
always
you
a
don't go out
mistake.
of your way to make a mistake in these quilts that you make.
We don't purposely, but I'm sure there's always a mistake.
There's
All the
always a
ones I ever
mistake.
made, I put a mistake in it somewhere purposely.
Wait, I didn't totally hear it, but so you're asking, you'd purposely put a flaw in the quilt, or no? What was
but-
that?
I'm sure there is.
But only God is perfect, so no one else could make something perfect.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot in the Amish community as kind of a way of humility of that their quilts may be magnificent and technically very advanced, but they don't want to take that our work is perfect because they're not above anything or.
Well, it's interesting because I read about Chinese artisans who do ivory carving, and they deliberately put a flaw in it because if they made it perfect, it would offend the gods. That's their state of mind. Or humility, right, built into it. Yes, Jonathan.
As a total neophyte in this, not knowing anything about it, I have a preliminary question. The reason that any material is okay is because the stitches go through the material to hold the back and the front together. So you could have a completely worn and completely unstable material because the stitches are holding it together. I mean, when you say anything is fair game for a quilt, and I'm thinking of like worn out shirts that I have.
Flimsy
or whatever.
can it be?
And I'm looking at this and I see the stitches go all the way through in a pattern. So because the stitches are holding the material on, it can be any material?
It can be any material, but you also need to remember the material that you use will determine when its use. If you're using fabric that is maybe lightly woven or even a non-traditional fabric, people make quilts out of fabric, or I've seen toilet paper rolls. You know, the definition of quilt is really expanding these days. So if you make something that may not stand the test of putting it in a washing machine, then that's a wall quilt. It really determines what the future of that quilt will be. So can you use a worn shirt? Yes, but that will more likely be the first spot that will wear out. And then conserving a quilt, repairing a quilt, that's another skill level on top of making a quilt. So it really varies on what your intention in it. If it's a wall hanging, absolutely use whatever you want. Its purpose is to convey a message, a meaning, a sentiment. But if a quilt is to be used, you really want to use a fabric that's going to stand the test of time and, you know, be turned into a jacket, like Michelle's quilt was. So it really depends what you really want the outcome to be and its purpose.
And the other question I have is, I guess you have to sort of learn to be out of control in a way, because you control your little piece and then somebody else puts it on there, because there are places that the two patches are contiguous and parts that have little margins and parts that are uneven. And so you have to sort of give up control, right? You give it over and then somebody else designs it. You never know what's going to come of your little piece, right?
Right.
That's kind of the fun of it, I think,
Right.
sometimes.
I think I love when like you get to see like a quilt like that, like we all turn over the blocks and then it's presented, and to see like the finished project, I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, I can see that as being one of the best parts of it, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So at the end of the year, we often bring in like all of our scraps from our sewing or items that we may not want, but as we know, one man's trash is another's treasure. And a lot of us walk away with things that we really love and cherish, and that others are relieved to let go.
Get out of their house.
Anybody else? If not, I want to thank you all very much. Nelson, Michelle, Terry, this is wonderful. And thank you for your donation to the library and all you do for charity and the arts. Thank you.
Thanks.